The Politics podcast is brought to you, as always, by patreon.com/JURY. That is where you can support the show the best way you can. I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know what is in the water, but you guys have really supported the show this month. I've seen so many pledge adjustments back up to $3 or to $3 for the first time. That, of course, is the level that gets you bonus content Monday and Friday. You're like, well, I mean, how do I got to go to another website? Do I get in an email? Am I clicking on like a thing and then it plays in my browser? No. You likely listen to this show on podcast. That's how the vast majority of people listen to the show. When you become a patron, you get a special RSS feed. That might sound complicated, but don't worry. All you got to do is hit the plus button or the add feed button on any podcast player of your choice. You just paste that RSS feed in there, and boom, it's set it and forget it. You automatically, at the $3 level, get my episode Monday and my episode Friday, 3 days a week. PX3 has never been so apt. If you're not at $3, don't worry. You still get plenty of bonus content, including the Jury Show, the Politics Prime Show, and, for patrons only, the podcast version of the Friday Hype Train. That's my call-in show that I do on Fridays. Always an absolute blast. So go ahead and kick in a few cents. Be sensical. Don't do cents. I think it's like a minimum of $1. Anyway, head on over to patreon.com/JURY. But enough of talking about how we support the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Politics podcast. My name is Justin Robert Young. I don't know why I'm doing the voice, but I am. Just gotta go with it until the end of the show, doing the whole show in this voice. Anyway, guys, I can't do that. All right. Lot to talk about, but we are going to lead with what we've led with for the past couple weeks, and that is the fact that we have a live show coming up on March 1st. That is a Thursday here in the Bay Area, San Francisco to be exact. It's in one of my favorite theaters in the city, the Piano Fight Theater. Great place. Awesome shows there all the time. Very proud to be a part of it. March 1st, 7 p.m. Last week I told you guys that we were being coaxed into going into the larger theater. I think we've kind of cooled on that a little bit. But the bad news there is that means that we literally only have 5 tickets remaining. If you want to go, you know, there still is a chance that we would go into the larger theater and then we would have walk-up tickets. But right now, it's now or never, friends. If you're listening to my voice right now, I would go to bit.ly/sfsexshow. I can't believe I got that bit.ly. bit.ly/sfsexshow and get your ticket for the sex scandal bracket, the American sex scandal brackets, where we will break down the 16 best political sex scandals of all times, stretching from the founding fathers to some shit that happened last summer. We have got some range here, folks. Go ahead and make sure that you are a part of it. We changed one of them last week just to bring you behind the curtain. And my my write-up for it is something that I'm very proud of. It's going to involve me singing or rapping. All right, you're gonna want to see it. Look, I'm just so proud of it. I'm so proud of it. We've been working on it forever, and I'm really excited for so many people to see it. Go ahead and check it out. bit.ly/sfsexshow. All right. Enough of that. Hopefully you won't have to hear me talk about that again because we'll sell out between now and then. Or we'll bump up to the bigger room, and then we'll have to. You'll hear me, jump up and down about the show going forward. Here's a story I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about it because, quite frankly, I don't know exactly how representative it is. I don't know how many people really believe what I am about to talk about. I know that the conversation around this is far more about the repugnancy of it without necessarily quantifying exactly how widespread it is. However, before this show, I do a little chat with all of our Twitch friends, everybody who's here watching me live every single day at twitch.tv/JustinRYoung. And I talked about this, and it got a very controversial reaction. But also there were enough people that seemed to indicate that this is something that is being talked about in the real world. And that I know now has at least two legitimate news angles. What I'm talking about is the idea that there are crisis actors in Parkland, Florida, at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. This was a tragedy that was unfolding literally as we were going off the air last week. So it was 7 days ago. Many of you are aware that I'm from South Florida. I graduated from a high school not but 20 minutes away from Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Many of my friends and family are now teachers and parents in that area. A good friend of mine who is getting married about 20 minutes away from Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School used to teach there. I've got friends and family in law enforcement in that area that were involved in that process. So it is safe to say that I have more of a personal connection. And when I see what has happened with these kids, not only during the day, but also what has happened afterward, I can't help but see, as I think we all would, see a little bit of ourselves. I see different versions of my classmates. I immediately find myself as a pattern-recognizing creature trying to say, oh, I bet you he's like him. And I bet you she's like this girl that I went to high school with. I can't help but feel like I know them a little bit more because I grew up where they grew up. Albeit, a couple decades apart. So let's walk through this, I think, in the most logical way possible. The coverage from Wednesday to Friday was of a tragedy. And then things kind of took a turn. The kids of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, some of them decided to say that if we are here in front of these cameras, if everybody wants to put a microphone in our face, then we're going to choose what we talk about. And what we have chosen to talk about is gun control. They hijacked their narrative that was assigned to them and instead decided to make it an advocacy platform. Now, let me make this absolutely clear. I support this 100%. They have an absolute right to do with their time in front of the cameras as they please. Beyond the fact that they have survived something that is in any, by any political stripe, absolutely horrific. They are under no obligation to weep on command so the cameras can catch them. As long as they have heat, they can cook whatever they want with it. Now, it is upon that foundation, upon that foundation that we now have a secondary conversation. And that is when these kids now become advocates, there is a different air that they have to breathe. And there are different rules that are applied to them than if they were just survivors. If they were just survivors, you would say, don't be mean. Don't disagree. Allow them to say whatever they want, and that's that. When you become an advocate, and I'm not saying that you can't be both, but when you move into that advocacy sphere, now you are there to debate. You are there to convince. You are there to make change. Now, this has manifested itself in a couple different ways. And what I want to talk about here is something that, again, I really don't want to talk about. This is a conspiracy theory that, to my research, specifically one of the kids, is a paid crisis actor. I do not know how one becomes a crisis actor. I do not know if crisis actors get SAG benefits. I do not know if crisis actors get Oscar screeners. I do not know if part of this conspiracy is that somebody saw a screener copy of 3 Billboards in David Hogg's backpack and are using that as evidence. What I do know is that there are 2 legitimate news pegs to this story, and it is the only reason why I am talking about it. The first is that a YouTube clip, which was peddled by a few sites on the rights blogosphere, purports to show 2 pieces of evidence that David is a crisis actor. The first is undeniably a clip from a local CBS News affiliate in Los Angeles from August 2017. In this, the student that goes to school in Parkland, Florida, is interviewed because he took a viral video of a lifeguard being mean to his friend who was boogie boarding. He uses his real name. So I don't quite know why somebody, if we are to assume that he was either parachuted in or he has been a student at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School and now has been activated, which of course would assume that the shooting was predictable. I don't quite know where that fits in, but just so you know. The other piece of evidence is that he is very shaken, stuttering, and repeating his words in a CNN interview after the shooting, and that there is a voice off camera coaching him on either, depending on what point of view you want to take, what to say or what he did say. Now, I don't find this video very compelling to prove that particular point. There seems to be enough legitimate publicly available evidence to understand that the kid's family came from L.A. and that he visited L.A. over the summer. He is a part of the television production class at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, according to available research, and is somebody that recorded his friend being bullied by a lifeguard. The video went viral enough so the news covered him, and he was part of the interview. The fact that he was not all put together during an interview with CNN after surviving a school shooting is not particularly shocking to me, nor is the fact that if you have ever seen a television interview take place with somebody that is shaken and not being, hard to put together, you remind them where they were in their sentence. That's not just television reporting. That's any kind of reporting. So this video is at the heart of the two news pegs. The first is that an aide to a Florida state representative, again, that means that it is the state house of Florida that this person is a representative of and this aide works for, sent that video to a news outlet. The news outlet went back for comment to the state representative, and the aide was soon fired. The second news peg is that the video has shown up very high in trending searches on both Facebook and YouTube. I want this to be about as clear as possible, so I will state it plainly. The idea that there are crisis actors is bullshit. It trembles at the sight of Occam's razor. And if what you want, and I'm speaking specifically to those that would defend the Second Amendment, I'm speaking to the two A's, all right? If what you want is to defend the Second Amendment, every breath you waste on the idea of crisis actors erodes your position. Because like I mentioned before, if these kids are advocates, they are now, by their own will, opening themselves up to credible debate and credible discussion. I pointed out in the newsletter that I wrote this morning, tinyletter.com/Justin Robert Young, that there are 3 threads that I would like to continue to see explored. Number 1, legitimate conversation on what kind of legislation these kids want and whether or not it is effective. My personal view on gun control is that before we start talking about new laws, we have to understand how the laws we have on the books work and whether or not they're working. Because you can't just pour water into a bucket with a hole in it. Number 2, I would like to know more about these kids. They are a fascinating group. And specifically, based on some of the interviews that I saw with some of the kids, it seems like there is a group of teachers that is helping them along through this journey. And I don't mean to say this in any kind of nefarious way, but I would like to know more about that relationship. Number 3, and I think this is probably the biggest one. Statistically speaking, there are kids at that school that might not agree politically with the kids that are getting the most attention. Now, maybe they have chosen to not become advocates like their classmates. Maybe they have chosen to just be victims, and that is absolutely their right. But if there are those that would like to speak out, that have different political opinions, I would like to hear them. I think all 3 of those positions, if you want to talk more and more about these kids, I think these are all legitimate pathways that you can follow. But this, crisis actor nonsense is just foolhardy. I think it is self-destructive. If what you want is a strong Second Amendment, you are doing your cause harm actively. IMO. There's only one way to follow this, and that's, of course, to talk about George Clooney. I told you. Oh, long-time listeners of this show. I have told you. I told you that as soon as Donald Trump was elected president, that there is one surefire consequence that we would see, and that is a lot of charismatic rich people saying, oh, shit, he could do that? I mean, why can't I do that? I'm smarter than him. I met with him once. He's kind of a fucking idiot. And so, George Clooney has just sold his tequila company for $1 billion and is now using some of the money to advocate for causes. One of those causes is going to be a march, I believe this weekend or the next one, with some of the kids, survivors of school shootings. This has stoked speculation that he is building up his bona fides so he might have a run at the 2020 Democratic primary. Now, what kind of impact would George Clooney have? Oh, man. I think this would be an extraordinarily poor time for him to run. I think this will be a year that is dominated by very savvy, very aggressive female candidates. I think that they would relish in the idea of having a political novice like George Clooney get up on stage and mansplain to them why they are wrong on the issues. Because George Clooney is an amazing actor. I love George Clooney movies. I think he's an underrated director, to be honest with you. But I don't think that he is somebody that is going to have a going to have any kind of shot in this particular election. Now, that being said, oh, I'd love to see him try. Oh, Lord, I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, this is going to be the best. Oh, geez. I was talking on the live stream yesterday about whether or not there was a moment in the Star Wars universe where Obi-Wan Kenobi, stuck on Tatooine in his exile, was still using the Force, and he found something so potent, he felt an emotion so potent that it made him jizz his robe. And that's what I feel whenever I think about the 2020 election. Oh, it's going to be amazing. I need to change my robe. It appears I've jizzed in it. One of you droids, get me a wet wipe. I appear to have a sticky thigh. Oh, my God, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you what. Just in time, we have a Wave Watch. Guys, the Democrats are starting to panic. Democrats are starting to panic because the polling has not been bad for Trump and has not been bad for the GOP congressional blank ballot. Now, it hasn't been, like, aside from a few outliers, the Democrats, I'm taking a real quick look here. This is not the official poll dance, but the most recent polling now still has the Democrats up by double digits again. So, like, I'm seeing 11, 8, 9, 15, 8. But for a run there in January, we were trailing around like the 5-2 region. +5, +2. So there's a little bit of trepidation, specifically because it seems like the polling is also turning around on the tax cuts. People seem to like the tax cuts. Now, at least relative to how they felt about them while they were getting passed. I saw one headline today that was just crazy. It was like, majority of the country hasn't seen a bump in their paycheck because of the tax cuts. And you have to read the article to see that 37% of respondents that are employed report seeing in their paycheck more money because of the tax cuts. That their paychecks have gone up as the tax cuts have become official. Which is a tremendous amount of the country. To go from 37% now all of a sudden sees more money, that is tremendous viral marketing. Because they tell two friends and they tell two friends, and now all of a sudden the idea on these tax cuts has turned around. That's a problem. I have told you guys over and over and over again, and at some point someone's going to listen. But if the economy is good in 2020, Donald Trump, no matter what you think of him, is going to be very hard to beat. Now, on top of that, you have the fact that Donald Trump is doing some Trumpian things. He indicated that he was looking for more regulation on the bump stock. That is the modification to a semi-automatic weapon that can make it operate like an automatic weapon. And who knows whether or not he will go further on gun control. But if he does do anything, you know that he is going to come out and say, I did more on gun control than Obama. But beyond that, here's what Democrats, according to Politico, are really worried about. They're really worried about the fact that, oh, shit. Did we literally just do the exact same thing for a year and a half that lost us the 2016 election? Did we focus almost entirely on the circus of Donald Trump and spend less and less time talking about what we'll do when we're in charge? Have we put all of our eggs into the we need to impeach this guy basket and less in the he's ineffective, look at the things that we are trying to push forward that he is standing in the way of? Or, as I like to refer to it, getting John carried away. This is what got Bush elected to 2 terms. If it becomes anyone but him, if that is your mantra, then effectively you are asking for the populace to say, okay, well, either I agree totally with you or I agree totally with him in an electorate that's pretty much split 50-50. Now, it didn't work for Kerry. Democrats are worried that we are going to have a similar situation. Now, as was pointed out in the chat room, there is another encouraging signs for the wave this fall for the. That's just the wave. Encouraging signs that the Republican majority will be swallowed by because in Kentucky, a red district went blue. And this has happened in state houses and stuff like that. Very early indicators. And again, all politics is local. It's something that you want to keep an eye on. Large swaths of these kind of seats moving, I think, matter more than individual seats. But look, all the pieces matter. We just don't know how much right now. Isn't it fun? Oh, it's so fun. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. Look at this. Mueller made some indictments on Friday, and these I do want to take a little bit seriously. I need a sounder. I need a like bong, like, and that's the serious moment. Maybe the Undertaker's gong or something like that. The Mueller indictments that came down on Friday spelled out exactly how a Russian operation understood who we are as an American populace and what actions they took to divide us. They sought to cause an info war. And if I were to argue, I would say they were 100% successful in what they wanted to do. So I would encourage everybody to read this indictment. It's 34 pages, double-spaced. If you've taken the time to read 2 articles summarizing it, you could have just read it yourself. But I will summarize it as best as I can. Effectively, they came to America in 2014. They studied how Americans talk to each other. And they found what the smartest blogs, the smartest podcasts, and the smartest television networks have already known. That confirmation bias sells. Confirmation bias is sticky. Now, normally, confirmation bias is used to sell you advertising or show you advertising. They need to get you in the door so they can show you an ad that somebody has paid for. But what the Russian idea presupposed was, what if there was no ad? What if we literally just dialed confirmation bias up to 11? And we sought to exploit. And I want to make this, I think I've made, how many times have I made something clear today? I want this to be something that you take with you when you listen to this podcast. This is an exploit in the security sense. An exploit in the way that old code is an exploit in a server. The way that you having a weak password is an exploit. Our democracy has an exploit, and it is like anything else in hacking, human error. Specifically, what the Russians figured out is that we have such a lack of humanity for each other's opinion that we are so excited to find other people who agree with us that we can be guided with just an effortless touch into dehumanization. And there is an ever-expanding roster of actions that you can trigger by way of dehumanization. You can get people out of their houses. You can have people show up with signs. You can create a fundamental distrust in our democracy. One that caused Donald Trump to stand up and wonder aloud whether or not the election was rigged. One that can lead to a 1.5 years of investigation into whether or not the election was fairly contested. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I've said that forever. I'm just asking you to think along with me. But what happened while I was reading this is I was filled with a righteous purpose. And my righteous purpose was to say, if you are not putting empathy first toward those that you disagree with, you are continuing to widen this exploit. Our democracy is at stake. The Russians have milked us for our anger and for our indignation. And effectively, Putin's like one of those dudes. What race is it where they have the milk? Is it the Brickyard? And they just pour milk on their head? That's Putin with us. He milked us. I'm a democracy, Greg. Can you milk me? I'm not saying that partisan media or partisan commentary is harmful. But I do think we need to start taking it for what it is. We need to understand that these shows, these programs, they're not facts. I mean, yeah, they include facts, but they're narratives. They're narratives being pushed upon us. And we live in a world now, in a society that we can blame Facebook and we can blame YouTube and we can blame Twitter for allowing them to buy these advertisements, but 1 million people buy 1 million ads every day, and the vast majority of them fall on deaf ears. I know. I have. But if you do want to go to thecontender.us and buy a game, please do. But these things are not guaranteed to work. Those that resonate work. Those that find an audience work. We are in a very, very weird adolescence when it comes to how we connect with each other in an all-internet, all-the-time age. And that operation successfully took our worst instincts and made them worse. One more thing. We do have to talk about one of our favorite topics on this show. And that is... Wait. What's that? What's that? Whistling through the mountains? Whistling through the range? Whistling through Salt Lake City? Oh, I think we all hear it. Say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. Did somebody forget their mittens? Not anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Mitt Romney has officially announced he is running for the Orrin Hatch seat in the Senate. He had a video. The video was very well produced. It featured Mittens holding his hands very weird at one point. Nobody who is ever shooting video of Mitt Romney again should allow him to just have his hands at his side, but get his hands up. Let him be a hand talker. You can't just let him stand there in the pencil position because his hands look awkward when they're just standing there. But I don't want to talk about that. We're going to, who knows how much we'll even talk about Mitt Romney throughout this campaign. Something happened on Monday. Donald Trump officially offered his endorsement to Mitt Romney. The love-hate relationship between Mitt Romney and Donald Trump has hit a new love plateau. And Mitt Romney graciously accepted it on Twitter, saying, "Thank you for your endorsement, Mr. President. I hope to have the endorsement of the people of Utah." Now, before I talked to the strong 2A people, my Second Amendment listeners, my Second Amendment viewers, now I want to talk to the never Trumpers. I want to talk to the folks that are conservative and fucking hate Donald Trump, and therefore cotton to Mitt Romney and cotton to his speech where he called Donald Trump a phony, a fraud. And they were very disappointed in the fact that Mitt Romney accepted the president's endorsement. President who's in his own party's endorsement. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Mitt Romney's going to do what Mitt Romney's going to do when he comes to the Senate. If he had done anything other than exactly what he did, quickly, graciously accepted the endorsement and then pivoted to, I want to talk about Utah, then the only thing this campaign would have been about is about Mitt versus Trump. Like, If he either doesn't respond, then the first question that he gets the next time he's at a campaign event is, why haven't you responded? If he rejects the endorsement, then that's the only thing that anybody talks about. And by the way, what part of Trump do you think leaves that alone? He's immediately going to come back and say, I retract my endorsement, and I think he's a piece of shit, and he bowed like a dog. That's my favorite Trump meme, by the way, is the fact that he doesn't quite know exactly what a dog is. Like, dogs bow and dogs do like all sorts of stuff. He loves saying that people do things like a dog, but none of them are like he licked up, he ate a bowl of kibble like a dog or whatever. Just tranquilo, calmate. You guys are gonna be fine. The Never Trumpers, I think, will be well represented by Mitt Romney. If and when he is elected to Orrin Hatch's seat. He is going to look. Here's the biggest thing that I realized. Mitt Romney is just going to be the new John McCain, just somebody who's got to eat shit from the liberals and the Republicans at all times. As John McCain deals with his health crisis, Mitt Romney is, I don't want to speak ill on John McCain's health. But if John McCain is no longer with us, it will effectively be Mitt Romney becoming the new doctor, right? He will just regenerate into Mitt Romney because he is sliding exactly into that same little sliver where certain Republicans fucking hate him and liberals fucking despise him. But will he win? Well, there's one place where we can debate such matters. Yes. It is where we come to understand the will of the populace. It is here where we break down a scientific poll in a segment we like to call the
if you got that booty.
Dance, 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 dance.
That booty.
Wait till I take this poll. This is a Utah policy / Dan Jones poll taken from February 9th to February 16th. Polling 609 registered voters with a margin of error of 4%. Coming up first to the stage, we have the Democrat challenging for the empty seat. She is, with 14%, Jenny Wilson. But with a commanding lead of 60%, it's Big Dick Mitt Romney. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is Mittens with a 46-point spread. I don't think we've ever done a pole dance with Mitt Romney. I feel like that's the first time that we've ever done a pole dance because he was not in the race unless we did any speculative polls during the 2016 election. Just imagine him if he were a stripper. That is not the primary. That is Republican versus Democrat. I don't know if they have a primary or if they just run them all together. I got to look that up. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into but your emails. You can go ahead and send me an email, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Okay, I'm just going to do something really quick. This might be terrible. This is Wait by the Yin Yang Twins, a.k.a. the Whisper Song, as performed by Mitt Romney. Hey, how you doing, lil' mama? Let me whisper in your ear. Tell you something you might like to hear. You got a sexy-ass body, and your ass looks soft. Mind if I touch it and see if it's soft? Nah, I'm just playing. Let's just say I can. And I'm known to be a real nasty man. And they say a closed mouth don't get fed, so I don't mind asking for your head. You heard what I said. We need to make our way to the bed, and you can start using your head. You like to fuck? Can I just feed enough Mitt Romney shit and some machine learning, and just have him say, have a machine learning like an audio deep fake for the Yin Yang Twins? Just wait till you see my dick. All right. Mr. Steam Fist writes in 2 things. Well, 3 if you include how much I love your show, but I don't want to ramble on. First, the Republican commercial in Illinois. I think that they were portraying a transvestite, not a transgendered individual. I've heard that is the argument. Some guys can just put on a dress and go into the women's restroom and harass them. I think the Me Too movement bolsters the argument, showing how crappy men are. It's along the lines of a few crackpots with guns means tougher gun regulation. I'm not here to say one argument is more justifiable or compared to the other. Well, not in this email. Next. I've been watching your chat on YouTube, and I've been seeing a lot of Trump is a racist, as well as Trump is an idiot. I agree with you, and the arguments against Trump need to be accurate if you want to take him down. So on the proof that Trump is racist, the main arguments I've seen are the Muslim ban stuff, which IMO is not actually a ban on Muslims, just a poor job on immigration reform, and the shithole country comment. First one is an attack on a religion, not a race. It's really racist to say every Muslim from the Middle East team, which is a collection of races by itself. Saying that that is racist is just clickbait. Saying it's attacking freedom of religion is a valid argument. On the second item is the shithole country statement. That's classism, right? He wasn't saying all Central Americans are poor. He was just snubbing poor countries. Arguing that he's an elitist jerk is a fair argument via the statement, and I don't think he would even argue against it. Is there something else that I've been missing that Trump said? Again, here's what I think about the shithole country statement, is that he violated the thing that Reagan was good at, which is shit on governments, don't shit on people. Say that governments are ruining life for people. Don't say that the people are at fault. The other stuff is, look, I mean, he's been on record and off record talking about shit for a lot of time, for a very long time. He said some dicey stuff about black people, some dicey stuff about Jews. He was a bawdy playboy for the vast majority of his life, and he has a lot of quotes that are very, they go along with that kind of person that he was and is, right? Greylock in our Twitch chat is pointing out the Central Park 5. I'm sure, listen, you can Google. I'm not going to be the clearinghouse on racist Trump stuff. Mike writes, I was listening to an episode from early last year where you predicted that in the first year, Trump would sign an infrastructure bill, be surprisingly supportive of gay rights, and crack down on sanctuary cities. I was considering sending a snarky note about 1 out of 3 being not being bad when I happened to listen to a recent episode where you circled back on the predictions and owned up to them. Thank you for revisiting your predictions. Too few political commentators do this. There's a lot to learn from reevaluating against actual results. Listen, I know that politics has brought me a little bit of a new audience, or at least people who are not familiar with my past work. Any of those who have followed me for longer than a couple years will know that if there's one thing that I, probably to my own detriment, like to revel in, it is my own faults. And I am never shy to point out the fact that when I am wrong or an idiot. I think that I still stand by where I came from with those predictions. And I kind of think that if one of the 8 warring factions inside the Trump White House had won, that we probably would have gotten that. I think that was more of the Bannon pathway, was big infrastructure bill, destabilize your opposition by cutting out some of their key arguments, which would have been the gay rights thing, and then feed your base. And I think that a crackdown on sanctuary cities would be more tangible than building a wall. But, I mean, what are you going to do? The fucking presidency is a bottle rocket without a stem going wherever the fuck it wants. So, you know, I have no shame in saying that none of my shit was correct. Tom from Atlanta says, tagging on the South Florida suggestion for a live show. If there is anywhere in the country you should do a show, it's Atlanta, specifically booking a time around Dragon Con. You could double the audience from Philly. Atlanta can do anything that Philadelphia can do better, except, of course, beat the New England Patriots. Tom, look, I think I did a politics last year from Dragon Con. I would not be shocked if I do another one live from Dragon Con. So keep an eye out. I would say that would be the place to be. And look, a one-day pass to Dragon Con on Saturday or Friday would be something I think that would be well worth it for anybody. If you like this show and you want to have a chance to mingle with some of the cool folks that follow it, Dragon Con is probably the biggest collection of Diamond Club people every year. And I would love to see you there, Tom. But if you want to email us, go ahead and do it. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Politics. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. You can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. Download archived episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. If you want to know what I think about everything every day of the week for free, sign up for my newsletter, tinyletter.com/Justin Robert Young. And of course, support the show at patreon.com/JURY. Till next time, I want to remind you guys, some shows talk about politics. Other shows talk about politics. I was watching a show the other day that was talking about politics, but this is the only show that talks about all three, baby. See you next week. Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.